Do you feel like you've tried everything to change your life, but nothing works? The problem isn't you. It's the invisible algorithm of your feminine subconscious, deciding how much you're allowed to receive. And the biggest mistake most women make is copying masculine logic, force, rigid discipline, endless repetition. That creates short-term results, but destroys your vibration. Because when you try to control reality with constant pressure, you disconnect from your natural power. Vibrational gestation. Meanwhile, your subconscious keeps storing trauma, guilt, and inherited beliefs that sabotage everything in silence. It's not a lack of focus. It's not a lack of faith. It's the hidden script still running your life. Today I'll show you how to break this code. You'll see why positive thinking alone doesn't work. You'll discover how trapped emotions, symbols, and even your body shape your reality. And most importantly, you'll learn how to rewrite your inner narrative to become magnetic, abundant, and free. There is a silent code that travels through generations and settles in the feminine subconscious without asking for permission. It doesn't show up in school books, nor is it openly taught at home, but it lives in repeated phrases, in painful silences, and even in the looks that shaped childhood. A woman may believe her lack of prosperity comes only from recent choices, when in fact she carries centuries of inner voices that are not hers. The subconscious is like an invisible vault. It stores everything, even what we never ask to inherit. And it's from this vault that hidden limits are born. Science now confirms what ancient traditions always said. Traumas can be passed down as inheritance. Epigenetics proves that experiences of fear, scarcity, or oppression lived by grandmothers and great-grandmothers can leave marks in today's cells. Imagine a great-grandmother who lost everything in a war or endured abuse. That record doesn't vanish. It's inscribed as a vibrational echo that influences unconscious behavior. It's as if pain hides between the lines of our genetics, asking to be acknowledged. That is why so many women find themselves repeating patterns of stagnation or self-doubt without understanding why. They believe the problem is lack of focus or discipline, when in truth they are obeying an invisible script written long before they were born. This script whispers, "Don't trust. It's not safe to prosper. Don't dare too much." And the most dangerous part is that these phrases feel like natural thoughts when, in reality, they are inherited memories. The past is steering the present with invisible reins. A practical example helps to see this. Think of the woman who, every time she is about to advance in her career, feels a silent guilt. She cannot explain where this weight comes from, but she sabotages herself at the last moment. Perhaps her mother or grandmother learned that shining too brightly brought rejection or even violence. So even without real danger, her body reacts as if the threat still existed. The unconscious works like an alarm that was never turned off. This code may show up even in seemingly innocent phrases. How many times have you heard expressions like, "Money doesn't bring happiness," "If you're born poor, you'll die poor," or "A woman who works too hard loses her family"? These little sentences are seeds planted in the emotional field. They grow into roots of limiting beliefs that choke any attempt at expansion. The curious part is that, so often, we repeat them without realizing the poison hidden inside. The good news is that once we identify these inherited memories, the code begins to lose power. A simple exercise is to write down every phrase about money, love, and success you heard in childhood. Then ask, "Is this really mine, or does it belong to someone in my family?" This act alone opens a door to freedom, because the subconscious doesn't distinguish truth from repetition. By bringing awareness, you begin to rewrite your inner script. Many women report that when they do this exercise, forgotten memories resurface unexpectedly, like the time they heard their mother crying over unpaid bills, or their grandmother repeating that a woman alone doesn't get far. These details, seemingly small, become deep marks shaping what feels possible. The subconscious is an excellent archivist. It keeps everything, even a tone of voice heavy with fear, And unless those files are reviewed, they become the hidden map of adult life. Recognizing this secret code is like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly you see it was never lack of talent or capacity, but a vibrational inheritance that needed to be reframed. The next step is to understand how beliefs about worthiness were distorted, and why so many women feel they must give more than they receive. But that, as you'll discover, reveals another invisible error that goes even deeper. From an early age, many women were trained to believe they only deserve love, success, or money when they sacrifice themselves to the limit. It's as if an invisible judge watches every move, ready to say, "It's still not enough." This conditioning creates a cruel cycle, because the more they give, the more they feel they still have to prove something. The myth of worthiness doesn't just exhaust, it empties the soul. And ironically, the emptier inside, the less abundance manifests outside. The so-called good girl syndrome is a reflection of this. Since childhood, women learn not to disturb, to smile when they're sad, to place others' desires above their own. Over time, this pattern disguises itself as virtue, but in truth, it's a golden cage. The good girl doesn't allow her desires to bloom, fearing being judged as selfish or inappropriate. But repressed desire is like dammed water. It eventually overflows, often in the form of frustration. It's striking how this myth shows up even in small daily behaviors. How many times have you seen a woman apologize for asking something simple, like a favor or even a glass of water? The request comes out with a "sorry to bother," as if existing were already a burden. This may seem trivial, but it reveals unconscious programming, believing that taking up space, receiving care, or prosperity always requires paying a price. It's a silent code of emotional scarcity. The chalice metaphor makes this clear. Imagine a chalice overflowing with crystal water, yet the person insists on not drinking. She prefers offering it to others, even while dying of thirst. That gesture may look generous, but it's self-destructive. True abundance doesn't come from draining yourself to nourish the world. It's born when you allow yourself to receive first. Only those who are nourished can nourish authentically. Denying this is like planting a garden and never watering your own flowers. A simple exercise is to observe how you react when receiving compliments or gifts. Many women, instead of saying thank you, try to justify, "Oh, it was nothing. You shouldn't have." This difficulty in receiving is the tip of the iceberg of the worthiness myth. It's as if there were an internal filter rejecting everything that comes easily. But prosperity, at its core, flows through the path of ease. Life doesn't demand Herculean effort to bless those open to the flow. In practice, breaking free from this myth requires the courage to say no. No to excessive obligations, no to the weight of always pleasing, no to the pattern of carrying the world on your shoulders. Each healthy no creates space for a true yes to the heart. And that inner yes is a powerful magnet, because it teaches the subconscious you are worthy of receiving, not by effort or sacrifice, but simply because existing is already proof enough of worth. This process may sound counterintuitive in a culture that glorifies effort. But think, the sun doesn't need to prove it deserves to shine. It simply shines. So too should a woman in her essence, radiate without needing external approval. By reconnecting with this truth, the myth of worthiness begins to dissolve. It's like removing a blindfold and realizing abundance was always available, but you hadn't given yourself permission to touch it. Acknowledging this distortion opens the door to the next level, understanding how emotions, often repressed, become invisible molds of reality. Because it's not enough to believe you deserve. It's necessary to face the hidden feelings that keep shaping what you attract. And that's exactly where the key to the next point lies. Emotions don't vanish just because they were ignored. They lodge themselves in the body like invisible tattoos, shaping the way we see the world. Resentment, for example, is like a foggy lens. Everything a woman looks at becomes distorted by old memories of pain. Guilt works like a magnet, always attracting situations that confirm the sense of inadequacy. Fear is a prison without bars, keeping life trapped in suffocating cycles of repetition. Neuroscience shows that the limbic system records these emotional experiences as permanent files. Unlike logical memory, which may forget, emotional memory insists on resurfacing. It's as if the body kept a secret diary where every tear, every humiliation, every scare is stored. When a similar trigger appears, the body reacts before the rational mind even understands. And this is how many women live in emotional autopilot. Take a simple example. Someone who grew up in a home full of constant fights may react with anxiety to any slightly raised voice. Even if the present situation is harmless, the body relives the old trauma. This mechanism explains why so many people attract abusive relationships or oppressive jobs. The subconscious doesn't seek happiness. It seeks coherence with emotional records. That's why, if pain is familiar, it ends up being repeated. The curious part is that many women believe they are making rational choices, when in truth they're following an invisible mold. It's like a cake mold. No matter the dough you pour in, the final shape will always be the same. Life works the same way. As long as the mold is resentment, guilt, or fear, the outcome will remain limited. Only by changing the emotional mold can reality begin to take on new forms. That's why reframing practices are so powerful. A simple ritual can turn old records into fuel for a new story. For instance, writing a letter to yourself, describing the pain lived, and then burning it as a symbol of release. This seemingly symbolic act sends the subconscious the message that the cycle has ended. The body, which responds to symbols and not just logic, begins to relax under this new command. Another practice is conscious breathing. By inhaling deeply and exhaling while imagining the release of a trapped emotion, a woman gives her body a new command. Small practices like this, repeated with intention, reprogram the automatic response. Gradually, the limbic system learns it doesn't need to trigger the same alarms. It's like updating an old software that kept crashing the machine. The result is a lighter body, ready to create new memories. It doesn't mean denying emotions, but embracing them consciously. Resentment can transform into clarity, guilt into learning, fear into refined instinct. Each emotion holds a hidden key, revealed only when faced directly. Avoiding them is like locking a room full of treasures just because it's messy. The courage to open that door is what begins the process of true emotional abundance. And precisely when a woman begins to see the body as this mirror of the soul, the next level of awareness arises. Because it's not only emotions that get trapped. Often, physical symptoms, tensions, and illnesses carry hidden messages. That's when the body becomes the direct spokesperson of the unconscious. The body is more honest than the mind. While the mind lies to itself with justifications and distractions, the body cannot hide. Every tension, every recurring pain, every mysterious illness is an open letter written by the unconscious. It's as if the body were the spokesperson for secrets the mind insists on silencing. And when a woman learns to read these messages, she discovers her body is actually a map to healing and prosperity. Psychosomatic shows that physical symptoms are often expressions of unresolved emotional conflicts. A chronic migraine may carry years of self-pressure. Back pain may reflect the weight of unspoken responsibilities. Stomach issues may symbolize the inability to digest emotions. The body becomes a faithful translator of what the heart doesn't dare verbalize. Each physical signal is, therefore, an opportunity for self-knowledge disguised as discomfort. Many women only realize the depth of this when they face an illness that completely shifts their life. There are stories of people who, upon healing an old pain in the body, also unlocked financial prosperity or healthier relationships. It's not magic. It's vibrational coherence. When the body no longer carries the burden of the unconscious, vital energy begins to flow again. And where there is flow, there is expansion in every area of life. One practical example. A client reported constant pain in her uterus and hips. Upon investigating, she realized there were memories of abuse in her family's female lineage. When she began processes of reframing and embracing those memories, Not only did the physical pain lessen, but her professional life also started to thrive. That's because the body was no longer trapped in the same record of pain. It was free to vibrate at another frequency. It's common for symptoms to appear right when someone is about to take a leap in life, as if the body were saying, "Before moving forward, look at this." A woman about to start a business may be surprised by sudden anxiety attacks. Someone preparing to move abroad may develop unexpected insomnia. These signals don't appear to sabotage, but to reveal. The body only asks that the hidden story be heard, so the next step can be taken in freedom. That's why the path is not to ignore or numb the symptoms, but to welcome them as guides. A simple practice is to place your hand over the area in pain and ask, "What do you want to tell me?" This act may seem symbolic, but it opens a powerful space of listening. The body responds with intuitions, memories, or even unexpected emotions. This intimate communication creates a dialogue that gradually transforms tension into clarity. The body can also become a spiritual ally. In ancient traditions, it was believed that each organ stored specific memories: the liver with anger, the lungs with sadness, the heart with joy. By recognizing these connections, a woman sees that caring for the body is not only about physical health, but also about freeing emotional records. The body is a temple, but also a living archive of the unconscious. Ignoring this is like living inside a library without ever opening the books. And when this understanding matures, the next revelation arises. Self-sabotage doesn't always show up as clear pain. Often, it disguises itself as self-care, creating an illusion of protection. That's where the feminine shadow emerges, the territory where the unconscious confuses rest with escape. Self-sabotage rarely arrives with a warning. Most of the time, it dresses up as something acceptable, even something beautiful: self-care. How many women say they are resting, when in truth they are delaying a project out of fear of failure? How many call it self-love to never expose themselves, when deep down, it's insecurity disguised as protection? The feminine shadow is subtle yet powerful. It turns escape into routine and names it care. This mechanism is fueled by the archetype of the inner critical mother. It's that inner voice that seems protective but constantly repeats, "It's not safe. Better not risk it. What if it doesn't work out?" The mind believes it is protecting, but in practice, it is imprisoning. It's like an overprotective mother who, in trying to avoid risks, keeps her daughter from living. This inner mother doesn't mean harm, but she perpetuates fear as a survival strategy. The problem is that when this shadow dominates, a woman enters a cycle of immobility. Rest is never truly rest, because it's taken over by silent guilt. Me time becomes an excuse for procrastination. Even spiritual rituals can turn into escape if used as a justification for not facing the real world. It's an invisible prison, adorned with the mask of self-awareness. And the more refined, the harder it is to notice. One practical example: a woman dreams of writing a book, but says, "It's not the right time," and spends years studying writing techniques, courses, and inspiration rituals. On the surface, it looks like dedication, but at its core, it's fear of failure hiding behind endless preparation. That's the shadow at work, convincing her she's caring for herself, when in reality, she's sabotaging herself. It's the difference between fertile rest and stagnation. To break this cycle, one must learn to differentiate genuine rest from unconscious escape. True rest renews, gives energy, and brings clarity. Unconscious escape drains, weighs down, and increases the sense of delay. A practical tip is to observe how you feel afterward. If you feel light and inspired, it was rest. If you feel guilty and even more paralyzed, it was escape. This simple self-check already begins to expose the shadow. Humor can help in this identification. Imagine asking yourself, "Am I really taking care of myself, or am I just stalling?" Bringing lightness into this process prevents the discovery from becoming yet another burden. Because the idea isn't to create guilt, but to recognize that even self-sabotage was born from a misguided attempt at protection. Seeing this softens the gaze and opens energy for more conscious choices. Another point is noticing how this shadow influences the relationship with success. Many women unconsciously create routines that keep them safe in mediocrity. Shine is feared because it may attract criticism, envy, or rejection. So the mind creates sophisticated excuses like, "I need more rest," or "it's not the right time." In this way, the shadow ensures nothing new happens. But the price is high. Life stays stuck in circles, without true leaps. And it's precisely at this point that feminine awareness begins to access even deeper memories. Those stored not only in the mind, but also in the womb. Because if the shadow manifests as escape, the womb holds silent records of stories asking for release. And within this uterine memory lies the next secret. The womb is not just a biological organ, it is a vibrational field. For centuries, ancestral traditions spoke of the womb as an energetic vault, capable of storing not only personal memories, but also records of the family lineage. Modern studies on cellular memory are beginning to confirm what shamans, midwives, and priestesses already knew. Every feminine experience leaves subtle marks in the body. The womb becomes a silent book that needs to be read. It is in this space that many women carry stories of pain that are not only their own. Abortions, losses, violence, and even family secrets can remain vibrating in the uterine field for generations. This explains why some women feel deep blocks in creativity, sexuality, or prosperity without any apparent reason. The body keeps what the mind forgets. And the womb, in particular, is like a root that absorbs both the water and the poison of the lineage. The garden metaphor helps to visualize. Imagine a garden meant to bloom in vibrant colors, but its roots are suffocated by toxins. The plant tries to grow, but bends, withers, and repeats the same fragility. The feminine works the same way. Until the roots of the womb are cleansed, a woman may try to prosper, but her fruits will always be limited. Not for lack of effort, but because the root still holds memories of pain. Many women report that after uterine healing practices, they not only felt physical relief, but also profound changes in their emotional and professional lives. It's as if an invisible weight were lifted, allowing creative energy to flow again. Some regain pleasure in their bodies, others discover the courage to start a business. All because the womb does not only store trauma, it is also a source of life and power when freed. A simple exercise is to place your hands over the womb and breathe deeply, bringing to mind family phrases or memories about the feminine. Ask yourself, what am I carrying here that doesn't belong to me? This silent listening already begins to reveal hidden patterns. Sometimes a memory arises, other times, just a sensation. But every insight is a key that opens space to free the inner garden. In ancient traditions, rituals like womb blessings, women's circles, and herbal baths were used to cleanse this field. Today, many women are rediscovering these rituals as forms of reconnection. The form doesn't matter. What matters is creating a sacred space of welcome, so the womb feels heard. When that happens, the body responds with vitality, and life responds with new opportunities. This process is not only personal but collective. When a woman heals her womb, she also heals the memory of her lineage. It's as if the DNA receives a new message. The cycle of pain ends here. That healing reverberates forward, freeing future generations. Thus, the womb ceases to be a vault of pain and returns to being an altar of creation. And it's precisely at this point that the next trap arises, believing that positive thinking alone can replace such deep memories. But the conscious mind, by itself, has no power against roots engraved in the body. That's where the hidden error of superficial positivism begins. The greatest mistake many women make is believing that positive thinking alone is enough to transform reality. Repeating phrases like, "I am prosperous," or "I deserve abundance," may bring temporary relief, But if the unconscious holds memories of scarcity, those words sound like inner lies. It's like painting over a cracked wall without fixing the structure. It may look new on the outside, but inside it's still unstable. The conscious mind isn't strong enough against deep beliefs. Psychology explains this phenomenon through the effect of cognitive dissonance. When a person affirms something the body doesn't recognize as true, an inner conflict arises. This conflict generates tension, and the mind ends up sabotaging its own efforts to restore coherence. For example, if a woman repeats that she's wealthy, but inside she carries fear of not having enough, the unconscious seeks situations that confirm the fear, not the affirmation. The body trusts emotion more than words. That's why so many affirmation practices fail. Not because they are useless, but because they are superficial when applied alone. Imagine trying to change a ship's route by pushing its sails without touching the rudder. The rudder, the unconscious, decides where the vessel goes. Positive thinking is wind. It can help. But if the rudder is stuck in fear, the ship will keep going in circles. The solution lies in accessing altered states of consciousness, where the unconscious becomes more receptive. Deep meditation, for instance, lowers rational resistance and opens space for new messages to be imprinted. Automatic writing can reveal hidden content that needs release, and therapeutic hypnosis shows how to reframe trauma directly at the point where it was recorded. In these states, the rudder can truly be adjusted. A simple exercise is, before sleeping, to enter a state of deep relaxation and repeat a short phrase tied to the desire. But instead of only repeating, feel in the body what it would be like to live that reality. If the desire is abundance, imagine the calm of paying bills with ease, the lightness of choosing what to buy without fear. That feeling creates a bridge between conscious and unconscious, allowing the message to imprint as experience. Another powerful practice is to observe the resistances that arise with positive thinking. If when saying, "I deserve love," an inner voice replies, "No, you don't," that's the point of healing. Instead of ignoring the voice, embrace it. Ask where it comes from, to whom it belongs, when it started. This inner dialogue turns what seemed like a barrier into a portal of self-knowledge. The unconscious cannot be conquered by force, but it can be won through listening. It's important to remember that the unconscious is symbolic. It responds to images, metaphors, and rituals. That's why many women find more results in creating an altar, lighting a candle, or drawing a symbol than in repeating phrases mechanically. The gesture speaks directly to the body's language, and when emotion and imagery align, thought stops being mere words and becomes real vibration. And it's precisely when this key is understood that the next level opens, realizing that the feminine doesn't attract through insistence, but through the silent magnetism of receptivity. Because there is a crucial difference between chasing and attracting, and that's what we'll explore next. Feminine energy doesn't need to chase, it attracts. There is a silent magnetism that can't be explained only with logic, but can be felt in any environment. Think of that woman who doesn't say much, yet her presence is so strong that everyone wants to be near her. That power doesn't come from excessive action, but from the quality of vibration she radiates. And that vibration is born from receptivity, not insistence. Neuroscience has shown that alpha states, those of deep relaxation and creative openness, expand perception and connection with the surrounding field. It's in this state that the brain stops fighting life and begins to align with it. The feminine has a natural affinity with this frequency, but culture taught that value lies in running, accumulating, competing. By reclaiming alpha states, a woman remembers that silence can be more productive than noise. This doesn't mean passivity, but conscious magnetism. The difference is subtle, yet essential. Chasing drains energy, attracting conserves and multiplies it. Picture a magnet. It doesn't run after metals. It simply pulls them toward itself. The same happens with a woman aligned with her essence. She doesn't need to convince, beg, or prove anything. Her vibrational coherence does the work for her. An interesting example is that many women report their greatest prosperity leaps happened when they chose to rest. By stopping the attempt to control every detail, opportunities began to appear unexpectedly. It's as if the universe could only deliver when the mind stopped interfering. Silence, in this case, isn't absence of action, but fertile space for the natural flow to happen. This magnetism also manifests in relationships. A woman vibrating in serenity and clarity doesn't need to chase approval. She becomes a reference, not because she forces, but because she inspires. This is the feminine secret. Value doesn't lie in excessive effort, but in authenticity radiated effortlessly. The more she is truly herself, the more naturally she attracts what she desires. A simple practice is to set aside intentional silence moments during the day. Just a few minutes of total receptivity, without trying to produce anything. This pause recalibrates the nervous system and sends the body the message that it's safe to receive. Over time, these moments of silence begin to reorganize not only the mind, but also external results. It's the training of silent magnetism. Humor helps highlight the contrast too. Chasing is like that meme of the cat running after the laser, exhausting and useless. Attracting is like the sun. It stays still, yet everything grows toward it. This is the feminine wisdom so often forgotten. Abundance doesn't demand performance, but presence. And presence isn't shouted, it's emanated. And when a woman begins to decode the symbols and messages her unconscious sends in those moments of silence, she discovers that this magnetism has its own language. It is the realm of dreams, myths, and images that reveal hidden secrets. The feminine unconscious speaks a language different from logic. It communicates through symbols, images, and dreams. At night, when the rational mind rests, it's as if the inner theater opens its curtains. Characters, strange places, and impossible situations arise not to entertain, but to teach. Each dream is an encrypted message, and each image carries clues about what has yet to be seen in the light of consciousness. Carl Jung said that dreams are the language of the soul. In women, they gain even more power, being deeply connected to ancestral archetypes: the mother, the healer, the witch, the lover. When a woman dreams of water, for instance, she may be accessing records about her emotional flow. If she dreams of houses, it may reflect her inner structure. Nothing is literal. Everything is symbolic. The curious part is that many women dismiss their dreams as nonsense of a tired mind. But those who learn to decode them discover that they reveal not only present secrets, but also directions for the future. A dream of being chased, for instance, may show an unconscious fear that needs to be faced. A dream of flying may signal it's time to expand beyond imposed limits. The unconscious doesn't lie, it only symbolizes. Keeping a symbol diary is a powerful practice to translate this language. Simply write down, every morning, the dreams that are still fresh in memory. Over time, patterns begin to appear. Recurring animals, repeated situations, colors, or numbers. These details, seemingly trivial, are personal codes of the subconscious. They form an intimate dictionary that only the woman herself can write and interpret. Beyond nighttime dreams, symbols also appear in daily life as synchronicities. The same number seen several times, a song that keeps playing, a phrase repeated by different people. These signals are not coincidences. They are reminders that the unconscious and the universe speak together. The outer world becomes a mirror of the inner world, and symbols are the words of that secret dialogue. A woman who learns to read symbols gains a hidden compass. Instead of feeling lost, she starts noticing she is being guided by constant messages. This doesn't mean falling into superstition, but recognizing that life is more poetic than rational. When the subconscious finds space to speak, it sends precise guidance in the only way it knows, through images that touch deeply. Humor can even help in this process. Sometimes a seemingly bizarre dream, like running after talking chickens or losing a shoe in the street, holds valuable messages. The key is not to ridicule, but to embrace it. because the unconscious loves exaggerated metaphors to catch attention. By taking the dream seriously, a woman sends a message to herself. I am listening, and that alone strengthens her bond with inner wisdom. And when this symbolic listening deepens, the next step arises. Realizing that life is shaped not only by symbols, but also by the internal narratives we tell about who we are. And that's where the art of rewriting one's personal myth begins. Every woman's life is sustained by an invisible narrative she repeats, consciously or unconsciously. This narrative is like a secret script. It determines what she believes is possible, what she deserves, and how far she can go. If the inner story is one of struggle, everything will feel difficult. If the narrative is of scarcity, reality will always confirm lack. But when the script changes, the entire stage of life transforms. Philosophy says that each human being lives within a personal myth. It's not just a metaphor. It's a storyline that organizes facts, gives meaning, and creates destiny. If the myth is, I always have to sacrifice, life will provide proof of sacrifice. If the myth is, I'm not enough, every achievement will seem small. The problem isn't in the facts, but in the lens through which they are interpreted. A practical example: 2 women lose their jobs on the same day. One interprets it as proof of failure and reinforces a narrative of rejection. The other sees it as an opportunity to restart and open a more aligned path. The fact is the same, but the story told changes the outcome. The mental model is like an invisible narrator. It can be an ally or an enemy, and the choice of which voice prevails is the first step to expanding abundance. Replacing narratives requires awareness. It's not enough to repeat positive phrases. The storyline must be rewritten with emotion and coherence. That means changing I never succeed to I'm learning to succeed, or I'm not good enough to I'm expanding. Small shifts like these create new neural pathways. Over time, the brain begins to recognize this new myth as reality. The story becomes habit, and the habit becomes destiny. A powerful practice is to write your life as if it were a future biography. Describe in detail how you want to be remembered, what achievements you will have reached, what impact you will have left in the world. This exercise isn't just imagination. It installs in the subconscious the feeling that the future has already begun. And since the brain doesn't distinguish memory from vivid imagination, it works to align the present with that vision. Another exercise is to observe the automatic phrases that slip out in daily life. When you hear yourself saying, "Things never work out for me," or "I'm not lucky," write it down. These phrases are windows into the inner myth. Once identified, you can choose a conscious replacement. It's like changing the narrator of a movie, from a harsh critic to an encouraging ally. The storyline continues, but the tone changes completely. Rewriting the narrative doesn't mean denying difficulties, but interpreting them in ways that strengthen. A challenge can be seen as punishment or as training. A loss can be interpreted as injustice, or as space being freed for something greater. External reality tends to bend to the dominant narrative. When a woman chooses to tell a story of expansion, life begins to respond with opportunities that confirm that choice. And this is the point where the cycle closes. All the codes, symbols, and memories explored so far converge into the same truth. The feminine subconscious holds the key to abundance, but it only opens when a woman decides to rewrite her story. And now, it's time to weave everything into a final introduction that ties the paradoxes, reveals the visceral pain, and points toward the solution. Now you've seen it. It's not about lack of effort or faith. It's the hidden code of the feminine subconscious that has been running your life. And only when you face the symbols, emotions, and inner narratives will abundance truly begin to flow. The real question is, will you keep forcing life with methods that don't work for your feminine? Or will you reconnect with your natural magnetism? Will you keep repeating words you don't feel? Or will you write a new story from the inside out? That choice, only you can make. Start applying what you learned here today. Keep your symbol diary, question your narratives, and listen to your body. You'll be amazed at how fast life responds when you change from within. And if this video spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with other women who need this awakening. Because the world doesn't need more exhausted female effort. It needs your magnetism in action.